The Vietnam War, shaping the 20th century landscape. The Vietnam War's origins trace back to complex causes, including colonial legacies and ideological clashes. Post-World War II, Vietnam sought independence from French rule, setting the stage for conflict influenced by global Cold War dynamics. The Cold War's ideological battleground made Vietnam a focal point. The U.S. feared a domino effect, where if one Southeast Asian nation fell to communism, others would follow. This belief propelled American involvement in Vietnam, aiming to contain communist expansion. The French Indochina War laid the groundwork for American involvement in Vietnam. As France struggled to reassert control over its former colony, the conflict drew in international attention, setting a precedent for external intervention in Vietnamese affairs. The Gulf of Tonkin incident marked a significant escalation in U.S. military involvement. Reports of North Vietnamese attacks on American destroyers led to Congress passing the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, granting President Johnson broad military powers in Vietnam. The Viet Cong's use of guerrilla warfare posed a formidable challenge to U.S. forces. Their knowledge of the local terrain and support from rural populations allowed them to conduct effective hit-and-run attacks, complicating the U.S. military strategy. Operation Rolling Thunder marked a major escalation in the Vietnam War, employing sustained bombing campaigns over North Vietnam. This strategy aimed to cripple North Vietnam's ability to supply the Viet Cong, but also stoked widespread controversy. The Tet Offensive shattered American public confidence in the war's progress. Despite being a tactical failure for the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong, its psychological impact turned many in the United States against the war effort. Efforts to win the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese people underscored the complexity of the conflict. This strategy aimed to gain the support of the civilian population, but mistrust and cultural barriers often hindered its success. The role of the media during the Vietnam War was unprecedented. Graphic coverage of the conflict and its casualties played a key role in shaping public opinion, fueling the growth of a widespread anti-war movement in the United States. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was a complex network of paths and tunnels that stretched from North Vietnam to South Vietnam through neighboring Laos and Cambodia. It was the lifeline for the North, supplying troops and resources, despite relentless American attempts to cut it off through bombing. Its resilience under fire became a symbol of Vietnamese tenacity. The My Lai massacre, a horrific incident where American soldiers killed hundreds of unarmed Vietnamese civilians, shocked the world. This atrocity significantly shifted public opinion, heightening anti-war sentiment and raising serious ethical questions about the conduct of the war. Nixon's Vietnamization policy aimed to gradually withdraw American troops and transfer combat responsibilities to South Vietnamese forces. This strategy intended to decrease U.S. involvement while preparing South Vietnam to defend itself against the North, yet the readiness and effectiveness of South Vietnamese forces remained questionable. The secret war in Laos and Cambodia saw the U.S. expanding its military operations beyond Vietnam's borders in an effort to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The extensive bombing campaigns in these countries remained controversial, causing widespread devastation and destabilizing the region. The Paris Peace Accords marked a pivotal moment, ostensibly bringing an end to the conflict. Yet, the agreement failed to ensure lasting peace. The U.S. withdrew its forces, leaving behind a fragile South Vietnam that would eventually fall to the north, culminating in the fall of Saigon and the unification of Vietnam under communist control. The fall of Saigon marked a dramatic end to the Vietnam War as North Vietnamese forces captured the city. This event symbolized the failure of American policy and military efforts in Vietnam, leading to widespread evacuation and chaos. The legacy of Agent Orange lingers, with its harmful effects on the environment and health still evident. Both U.S. veterans and the Vietnamese people continue to suffer from exposure to these toxic herbicides, highlighting the war's enduring impact. POWs and MIAs remain a poignant issue, with families still seeking closure for loved ones lost or unaccounted for during the conflict. The uncertainty surrounding their fates adds a layer of tragedy to the already devastating consequences of the war. The boat people's exodus was a humanitarian crisis, with thousands of Vietnamese fleeing the communist regime by sea. Their perilous journeys underscored the war's far-reaching effects on Vietnam's civilian population, leading to a global refugee crisis. Post-war Vietnam saw the implementation of re-education camps aimed at indoctrinating former South Vietnamese military personnel and government officials. These camps were marked by harsh conditions, further illustrating the war's brutal aftermath. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial stands as a poignant symbol of healing and honor in the heart of Washington, D.C. Its reflective black granite walls, etched with the names of the fallen, invite visitors to remember and reflect on the sacrifices made. This solemn monument serves not just as a place of mourning, but also as a site of reconciliation, bridging the divide between past conflicts and present unity. The War Powers Act of 1973 marked a significant shift in the balance of military authority, curtailing the president's ability to deploy U.S. forces without congressional approval. Stemming from the controversy and pushback against unchecked executive power during the Vietnam War, this legislation aimed to prevent future conflicts from escalating without thorough legislative oversight, ensuring a more democratic approach to military engagements. Veterans returning from Vietnam faced not just the challenge of reintegrating into society, but also the battle against PTSD and the struggle for recognition of their service. The scars of war weren't only physical, but deeply psychological, leading to a greater awareness of the mental health issues soldiers face post-conflict. This recognition has since paved the way for better support systems for veterans. Women's roles in the Vietnam War were diverse, ranging from nurses and support staff to correspondents and combatants. Their contributions, often overlooked in early accounts of the war, have gradually gained recognition, highlighting the integral part they played in both the conflict and the subsequent peace processes. Their experiences and sacrifices have contributed to a broader understanding of women's capabilities and rights in military contexts. The release of the Pentagon Papers in 1971 exposed a deep chasm between government statements and the reality of the Vietnam War, sparking public outrage and contributing to growing distrust in government. These classified documents revealed undisclosed information about U.S. strategy and operations, challenging the official narrative and ultimately leading to a more informed and questioning public stance on government transparency and accountability. The Vietnam War left an indelible mark on Vietnamese society and infrastructure, devastating both the physical and social landscape. Decades of conflict disrupted traditional ways of life, leading to widespread poverty and displacement of communities. International allies and global opinions played pivotal roles during the conflict, influencing both strategy and diplomacy. The support of Soviet and Chinese allies for North Vietnam contrasted with the varying degrees of skepticism and support from Western nations. The war significantly altered American foreign policy, highlighting the limits of military power in achieving political goals. It led to a more cautious approach in future conflicts, emphasizing the need for clear objectives and exit strategies. In the 21st century, efforts toward reconciliation and normalization between Vietnam and the U.S. have borne fruit, symbolizing a desire to move beyond the contentious past. Bilateral relations now focus on mutual economic interests and regional security. Reflecting on the Vietnam War reveals its profound lessons and historical significance. It serves as a reminder of the costs of conflict and the importance of understanding cultural dynamics, guiding future generations in their approach to international relations. Please like, subscribe, and share. Next up is the Peloponnesian War. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed. Until next time, good night.